if you told the truth about him, people would find him attractive as a leader. He's very honest. He's incorruptible. He is smarter than anybody else in the room. He is articulate. He's compassionate. He cares about his people. I mean, for the Americans, that's the biggest sin of it all. He cares about the Russian people. You see, we want a leader like Boris Yeltsin, who is weak, easily corrupted, easily pressured into doing things, who engaged in policies that benefited the United States and the West, but were destructive to the Russian people. That's the kind of Russian leader we want. And so we are deeply resentful that Vladimir Putin came to power and has stayed in power despite everything we've tried to do to get rid of him. In fact, the longer he survives, the angrier we get. The more he is president, the more compassion and his vision of humanity, peaceful coexistence, prevalent this message is on the world stage, and the more we must suppress it. And the way you suppress it is by attacking the man, attacking his character, creating an artificial picture. And that was the purpose of this documentary. This documentary wasn't designed to tell the truth about Putin or even educate people about the reality of Putin. This documentary was designed to reinforce a mindset existing in the West that this man that the rest of the world recognizes as a noble leader is not. Don't believe the hype we're saying. He's really an evil KGB agent. And the people watching this documentary was built for the ignorant, for the fearful. This documentary is designed to be watched by people so they become afraid, and it reinforces all the prejudices that are already put in their minds, reinforces the Russophobia that exists so that they yet again believe at face value anything negative said about Vladimir Putin. And nope, don't be distracted by the fact that every time he gives a speech, it's actually a pretty good speech and the words make sense. No, don't be distracted by the fact that the man cries when people suffer. Don't be distracted by the fact that he has a heart, that he has humanity. Don't be distracted by reality. Focus solely on the fiction. And that's what this documentary is, 100% fiction. Yeah, he was a KGB agent. You know, I was a Marine Corps intelligence officer. Did that for 12 years. Did it shape my life? You're damn right it did. I'm proud of every second I spent as a Marine. But just because I was a Marine Corps intelligence officer doesn't mean I'm an evil person. Just because Vladimir Putin was a KGB officer doesn't mean he was an evil person. Being in the KGB does not mean you're evil. It means you're doing a job. It means you were serving your country. Being in the Marine Corps doesn't make me evil. It means I was doing a job. I was serving my country. It's about the man, not the title. And the man, Vladimir Putin, is a very impressive individual who is carrying on his shoulders burdens that no Western leader in modern time had been called upon to carry. In fact, these burdens are so heavy that it would cause any Western leader in power today to collapse almost immediately. Who we have in the way, Joe Biden, literally one of the most narcissistic, mentally inept individuals in the history of the United States. And we've known this about Joe since he was first a senator. He gabs. He's a liar. He's a plagiarist. And he makes no sense. But he's the man who turned Delaware into a tax haven. And as a result, he's untouchable in Delaware, was able to be a senator forever because Delaware played a role in empowering the economic elite in America. He became, put up into prominent positions. He's not smart. Listen to anything he said. He's been wrong every single time he opens his mouth, but the Democrats don't care, and they made him president. He would collapse under the pressures that Putin is under. Emmanuel Macron, come on. I can't think of a weaker leader, except maybe Joe Biden. Olaf Scholz, we can't even call him a leader. He's just the Pillsbury Doughboy. He's literally the softest individual ever to hold power in Europe in a long time. I mean, the female who just became prime minister of Italy. Oh, geez, I forget her name.
I don't remember her name.
Yeah, Giorgio Meloni or something like that. Is she strong? She hasn't been tested yet. She hasn't been tested yet. Let's see how she performs under pressure. Which British prime minister do we want to talk about? Boris Johnson, you know, he was an idiot. The lady that came after him, Truss, she was an idiot. And of course, this billionaire spoiled playboy, he's an idiot. None of them have the leadership capability of Vladimir Putin. And they don't deserve to be on the same stage as Vladimir Putin. And fortunately, they're not, because Putin's playing a completely different game. These guys are jokes, laughing stocks, idiots, and they're overseeing the destruction of their respective nation. Putin has taken Russia from the ashes, literally from the ashes of the 1990s, and turned it into one of the greatest nations in the world today. And if you're a Russian, you must be damn proud of your leader, damn proud of him, because he has succeeded despite all efforts to bring him down. I wish my leaders had the same moral character, the same intelligence that Vladimir Putin has. That would be a change. But it can't happen, because in America, to become a leader, you have to be a narcissist. And Vladimir Putin is the antithesis of narcissism. Oh, yeah, well, come on, Scotty. He takes his shirt off when he's on vacation. Who the hell doesn't? And who cares? If you're really going to let that photograph bother you, then you're thinking about the wrong things. Look, I'm somebody who believes that Vladimir Putin is human as the next person. And I believe that behind the scenes, he might get a little angry. He might be, he might display, but he's a leader. And the thing about a leader is, when I was a UN weapons inspector, the chief inspector, I would have to take a team into Iraq, knowing that the mission was going to get us into hot water, knowing that we were going to show up at a facility and soldiers with guns were going to come out, point the guns at us, and we don't carry any weapons. And I had a bunch of scientists and geeks who don't like having guns pointed at them. And I had to bring them and organize them and take them into Iraq and make them believe in the mission. But before I came out to address the team, I'd be in the back by myself, and I was scared to death. I was nervous. This mission scared me. I wasn't sure that we were going to succeed. I'm going through the documents, all that stuff. But all those uncertainties disappear the moment you enter the room. I opened that door and I walked out in front of them, and it was, I am in charge. I am the boss. I am the alpha dog. I am your leader. You will follow me. We're going to win. Let's go. Let's go. And they all went. And that's Vladimir Putin. I'm sure behind closed doors, there's a little bit of thinking and a little bit of worrying, because it's a hard problem he's been given. This ain't easy what he's being called upon to do. But being the leader that he is, when that door opens and he walks out and he is the face of Russian leadership, not only to Russian people, but the world, look at the face, calm, collected, no panic. If there's emotion, it's compassion. Compassion is one of the greatest weapons in the world. I wish the United States would learn how to wield it effectively. But in order to be compassionate, you have to be genuine, because people can see through fake compassion. Joe Biden, every time he pretends to be compassionate, he's not. Because again, I come back to what I said earlier. America doesn't care about anything other than America. Whereas Vladimir Putin, I believe, cares about other nations, cares about humanity, cares about people, because he's not bitten by the ego that's bitten America. Putin recognizes how important religion is to Russia and how important the Orthodox religion, the faith, is to Russia. But never once does he say that Russian Orthodoxy is the dominant religion of the world, that Russia is anointed by God to spread Orthodoxy around the world. But in America, we believe that God has blessed us. I mean, after all, at the end of each speech by an American politician, God bless America. And I always am struck by that. What does that mean? Does that mean that God damns everybody else? God blesses us, but damns the rest of the world. That we are the anointed people, everybody else isn't. They are the heathens. That we are the ones that have been, ordered by God, ordained by God to lead the world. The rest of the world is condemned to be followers. That's really what's happening here. I hope people see that. Whereas Vladimir Putin, who openly, speaks about the importance of faith, never once says Russia has been ordained by God to liberate the world. He only speaks of the importance of faith to the Russian people, to the Russian nation. And therefore, that means that he respects other nations. See, we can't respect other nations. We're incapable of respecting other nations because God has only anointed us. God has only blessed us. So how can we respect nations that have not been blessed by God? Whereas Russia believes that they have their faith. But look how he treats Muslim nations. Not as inferiors. He doesn't mock their religion. He treats their religion with respect. He treats every religion with respect. He treats other people with respect. So this is why he's a great man. And one of the reasons, this is the other thing I have to say, he's a great man because the Russians are great people. The Russians are a great people. And more, I hope people come to respect. They're not perfect. Okay, please, anybody watching this, I'm not saying the Russian people are perfect because they're humans. And by definition, we can't be perfect. They are capable of the same foibles, errors, mistakes that all humans make. They're humans. But what makes them different from Americans is their compassion and their humanity. I can guarantee you that if a Russian citizen is walking down the streets of Moscow and they see a homeless person on the street, they are going to do something to help that person, get that person where they need to be to get the assistance. In America, we drive by tent villages and cardboard box villages full of homeless people, and we ignore them. We ignore them. We ignore our own people who need help. What do you think we're going to do to the rest of the world when it needs help? Whereas Russia is genuinely compassionate, and that's because of the Russian people. And if there's one thing I hope to be able to do is to get American people in touch with Russian people so they can have just basic conversations so that we can learn to appreciate them and they can learn about us. Whether they choose to appreciate us, we have to earn that. It can't be given. We can't make anybody appreciate us, but I think we should give them the opportunity to understand us because that's the key. We have to understand one another. Right now in the United States, Russophobia is a disease. Everybody has been infected by it. It's like rabies. We foam at the mouth when we say Russia. They're evil, Putin, evil, documentary, KGB agent, oh, bad. The truth is so much different. The truth is they are compassionate human beings where their basic humanity defines who they are. And once you get to know them and understand them, you could never fear them. It doesn't mean that they can't generate fear. Just ask Germany what happens when you get the Russians mad and they finally, the saying, slow to harness, fast to ride. It takes a while to get the Russians moving. They don't like to get out of their whatever they're doing in their Russian life. They don't want to be messed with. But once you mess with them, once they get up and once they get harnessed, they're off to the races, baby. And just ask the Germans how that worked out. So I'm not sitting here saying that the Russians are incapable of hard decisions and hard actions. They are fully capable of it. But I will say that it will break their heart. And when it's all done, they're more likely to put out a helping hand to help you get back up than they are to put a foot on your throat and keep you down.
In first meeting of Putin with Clinton in this documentary, it shows that Clinton says to his advisors that this guy doesn't seem to want to deal with me, do anything with me. And do you think that what happened during Clinton and Yeltsin was the motive behind this, behind Putin not interested to deal with Clinton?
Well, let's remember this. Look, the National Security Archives of the United States has released a declassified phone conversations between Bill Clinton and Boris Yeltsin. And if you read these, it's humiliating for the Russians. Absolutely humiliating. The arrogance that Clinton feels. He pretends to be the friend, but he's not. Yeltsin repeatedly says, I need help, I need this, I need that. And Clinton's like, well, no, but we need you to do this. And Yeltsin wants to please his American master, so he does that. And he's begging. And the ultimate betrayal was the American decision to bomb Belgrade. in 1999. And it's literally humiliating to read the transcript and see just how broken Boris Yeltsin is because of this betrayal by the United States. And it finally comes clear to him that he's been betrayed, that Clinton has been using him. And then I asked people to remind themselves, who was sitting in the room when Yeltsin was making that phone call, being humiliated? And the answer is Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin watched his president, the leader of his nation, be humiliated by the American leadership. So forward, the message Tillerson isn't that willing to do business with him. It's that Tillerson hadn't earned the right and privilege to do business with Putin. Americans have to get over there. Just because show up doesn't mean that Putin has to play Yeltsin and bow down and bring you in. Putin will, of course, bring you in. You're the United States of America. You get your audience. But at that point, you have to earn it. You have to put something on the table that is worthy of interaction. Putin's not going to sit there and just be dictated to. It must be part of a negotiation. And to start that negotiation, you have to put something real on the table. And neither the Clinton administration, the Bush administration, the Obama administration, or the Trump administration ever put anything on the table worthy of discussion. It was all about furthering the same sort of American dominance that existed under Boris Yeltsin and the expectation that Russia would accept a subservient role. And Putin said, no, we are equals. We're not trying to say we're superior to the United States, but we are your equals. And you have to treat us as equals, or else I really don't want to do business with you. And, a lot of Americans call this arrogance. I called it being a good Russian leader. If you want to do business with Putin, put something on the table worthy of discussion. It has to be something that isn't singularly beneficial to the United States. In arms control, for instance, I'm a big proponent of arms control. But why would Russia ever enter into a treaty with the United States again? We've lied on every treaty. We've withdrawn from treaties that become inconvenient. And when we negotiate treaties, we're seeking singular advantage. We want to negotiate an outcome that gives us an advantage, keeps the Russians down. That's our approach. So if I were the Russians, I would never sit at the table with the United States until they change their approach. If the United States wants an arms control agreement with Russia, we have to respect Russia's legitimate national security concerns, treat them as legitimate, and then be willing to compromise so that we both get what we're looking for equally, mutually, that nobody gets an advantage. That's the purpose of arms control, is to level the playing field so that we're both on the same page, so nobody feels threatened, so that we're encouraged to pursue disarmament, to get rid of nuclear weapons so the world doesn't die in a nuclear holocaust in the morning. But what we want is to negotiate a treaty that allows us to cheat, which we have done in New START. We negotiated a treaty leading the Russians to believe that we'd bring nuclear numbers down here. And then because of language loopholes that we created, we say, oh, no, we can. And suddenly we have thousands of warheads that are, no longer accountable out there that can be immediately brought back in. The Russians are going, guys, that's not the purpose of the treaty. The purpose of the treaty wasn't so that you could find loopholes to get an advantage over us. The purpose of the treaty was we're supposed to be equal. How can we ever trust you again? Because the Americans go, no, that's what we negotiated. We never said there had to be this verification and that compliance and this. We simply said this would happen, and then this theoretical thing could happen, but now we've made it real, and we have thousands of warheads that aren't accountable. And the Russians are like, why would we want to do business with you? You say you want to negotiate a new treaty? Why would we do that? You're liars. You're deceivers. This isn't good for Russia. So Russia's not going to do it. And we got to find a way to change the way America thinks. And the first thing we have to do is get the American people not to be afraid of the Russian people. If the American people aren't afraid of the Russian people, then they won't tolerate these kind of policies. The only reason why our policymakers get away with these policies is that the American people are fearful of the Russian people. We're afraid of Russia. Therefore, we feel we need these policies. It's got to be about the total re-education of the United States of America when it comes to Russia. And we have to find a way to fix it. And in any case, we're talking about generational changes. Let me make it clear. There's very few people of my generation who have good feelings towards Russia, because I was among the very few who actually traveled there, met Russians, and helped understanding based on reality, not fiction.